Hey guys, hope your days are going well. Mine is. And today I wanted to talk to you about risk. And I think risk is incredibly important. But what I'm going to be talking to today about is not necessarily, what risks you should be taking, but to make the argument that the risk of not taking risks is far greater than the risk of taking a risk. And I know that's a little bit of a sentence, but I think it'll make sense by the time I'm done. So, if you're willing, I'd like you to think about what you want your ideal life to be. The ideal person that you'd like to be, and how you want to be living, and just that ideal. And I want you to keep that in mind and juxtapose that against maybe the you that you are now, or um, other people in your life. And I'd like you to ask yourself the question whether or not that the people that make up your support structure, the other people in your life, are living their best lives. If they feel, deep levels of meaning and gratitude, and like they're fulfilled with their career path or their life. And I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna take a guess that most people that make up your life and your social structure um, aren't living their best lives. And I would argue that the biggest culprit why is that they're unwilling to take risks, risks to better themselves, risks to change their jobs and maybe pursue something that they're more passionate about or they more resonate with, risk to confront individuals that perhaps they have issues with or are conflict with, just risk in general. Now, I believe the reason that risk is so important is because you and I, we have limited amounts of time. We have limited amounts of time, and it's a hard truth, but we have limited a number of days. And even if technologies like CRISPR and anti-aging telomere techniques and other things in the medical field, which are advancing quite quickly, give us more time. And so instead of maybe living 80 to 100 years, we live 300 years. I'm just pulling numbers out, but even if we were to extend that time, we still have a limited amount of years and limited amount of time. And if you ask somebody, like if I were to ask you, if you would prefer to live let's say a 40-year life, but that life was just full of meaning and peace and enjoyment and amazement and all these other good objectives, your ideal life in 40 years, versus living 1,000 years of semi-discontent and boredom and I call it near conscious torture, where you're never fully actualizing, you're never living you're just not. I don't know anybody, including myself, that would choose the 1,000 years. I would choose the 40 years any day of the week. Um, and I would think you would too, but obviously somebody out there is going to say, no, I want the 1,000 years. And fine, take the 1,000 years. But if you want the 40 years, if you want the shorter time frame with more in it, with more substance, with more fulfillment and peace and happiness, then this message is really for you. Because time is our limiting factor, you have a limited amount of time to take risks and change your life, change the course of your life towards something that you more resonate with. And if you're going to take these risks, the first step is to become okay with insecurity. I think the main reason that people, including people in your life, the people in my life that don't take risks, is because they're scared and they're insecure with not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring. Maybe not knowing, how they're going to pay the rent, not knowing how X, Y, and Z are going to occur, not knowing exactly what tomorrow is going to be like, not knowing if their confrontation with, person A is going to go in their favor. It's that unknowing. It's the anxiety behind not understanding and not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow that stops people from taking risks. That is extremely limiting, because once you stop taking risks and you start trading in freedom of change for security, you're now leaning towards that 1,000 years of boredom and complacency. You're not grabbing life by the balls. You're not trying to embody and create a person that you really, really want to be and that you really, really resonate with. So now that I've talked about a little bit of why I think most people don't take risk, I want to give you some security in taking risks. I've taken a lot of risk in my life. For starters, I dropped out of college. That was a big risk. I got into stocks and finance. That was a big risk. It's all about risk. I moved to Hawaii at a, you can call it unideal time. That was a big risk. I have, without making this a resume of my life, I've taken a lot of risks. And one thing I've really learned about risk is if you're taking a risk that you resonate with, that makes sense to you, that, I want to be that person, or I want to have that ability, or I want to live this way, then you have the energy and the motivation to make that risk work. Maybe not immediately, but you will make it work. So the risk of not taking the risk and the risk of living that complacent life versus a risk that you're going to make work, that becomes an easy decision now. You go for the change because you're going to make it work. If you believe in it, and not to get Disney on you, but if you believe in yourself, you're going to make it work. And I hope that can quell some of the anxiety behind not knowing that it's going to work. Because worst comes to worst, right? You fail. So you take a risk and you fail. Well, not only did you take the risk, which gave you life experience, but now the next time you take a risk, you're going to know way more and be maybe more cautious or more aggressive, or you're going to understand a little bit more about your pitfalls and your vices as to why you failed in the first place. And you can take that forward and you can apply that to everything you do. And that's extremely valuable. And so there's a poster I love, and it says what success, or what most people think success is, and it's like try, succeed. And then on the other side of the poster, it's what most successful people think success is, and it's try, fail, and it's all the way down, and then try, succeed. And that's really true. You have to be willing to fail, and there's a risk in failing. There's a risk of, how am I going to view myself when I fail? How are other people going to view me when I fail? Is this going to change my social standing? How much is this going to hurt? How much is this going to humiliate me? And the risk of that humiliation, the risk of that failure, stops people from ever trying. That's why so many people don't have any hobbies, because they're unwilling to be bad at something. They're unwilling to be bad in their own eyes, but they're also unwilling to be bad in the eyes of others. So they never take those first steps of being bad at something at first to cultivate being good at it, to then employ it. And so that's another example of not taking risk. Bringing all this together, the risk of not taking risk and not forging out and sculpting out a life that you really want, that you resonate with, pushes you towards 1,000 years of complacency. And that's scary, and that's dangerous. And I think that's more risky than taking the risk and trying to change and adopting growth mindsets and doing these things that ultimately end up benefiting you in the long run. And in the short run, too. It's far easier to live with yourself if you're constantly doing things that resonate with you. If you're not trying to live the life somebody else told you to live. If you want to be a painter and you've never painted anything before, but that just resonates with you, start painting. Start trying it. Because either you're going to fail and you're going to learn from the failure and enjoy the try, fail, because that's going to be very fun. Or you're going to fail and not enjoy it and realize, hey, I really don't want to be a painter because, even when I succeed, I'm just not feeling fulfillment and success from this. And so that in itself is a form of failure, which means that now your focus can focus on something else. You have to explore avenues if you're going to figure out whether or not you want to be in those avenues. You just have to do it. It's like doing the dirty work. Or you're going to succeed eventually. And you're now going to be that thing that you want to be. And you're going to have that another notch in your belt. And you're going to be like, yeah, I am a painter. I love painting. And that's beautiful. You're going to have another outlet of expression. And it doesn't have to be with a hobby. It can be with anything. It can be with the way that you handle negative people. It can be with the way you handle positive people. It can be with your diet. Like anytime that you have the courage to just try a little bit, the overall algorithm changes. And so if you just keep finding the courage and the energy, just try a little bit, you change. So you can take tiny risks and they'll compound into big risks. But at any rate, I think taking risk is invaluable. I think people who take risks ultimately end up succeeding. And I think the biggest reason people don't take risk is because they're insecure and they're anxious about a bad outcome. Kind of incorporating previous videos, there is no bad outcome. You can glean positivity from any negative experience, including a failed risk. And if you adopt this mindset, it's very powerful. And it's very reminiscent of a growth mindset. You have to take risks to grow. You can't grow by just being the same. It just doesn't work. So today, I talked about risk. I'm probably going to take a few day break, but I have a lot more content that I could release. So I'm excited about that. Just in the process of making sure it's good for you guys. And I hope your days keep going great. Have a good one.